Welcome to the LawyerFair.co.uk daily podcast. LawyerFair helps businesses find the right lawyer at the fairest price. But on this podcast, we just chew the fat with some great guests.
Yes, it is the LawyerFair Daily Podcast. Penny introducing us there with her normal sultry tones. And today's guest, well, I think the word journey is clearly overused, and it's a word that I shouldn't really be using too often. However, today's guest has literally gone on the journey from a bachelor's degree in Kosovo to one of the UK's top 50 business advisors. Welcome, Arsim Shillova.
Hello, hi.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's very kind of you to join us because, as I say, from Kosovo to today in London, there's a huge bag of experience in there. And Arsim and I were kind of talking about what we would like to discuss on the podcast. And we've nailed, because I'm a man of lists, Arsim, everything I do in life, I distill into a list. Top 5 movies, top 5 experiences, top 5 cities. So we are going to do, based on your experience with small businesses and in large international companies, we're going to do a top 5. What would we call it? Mistakes or things that business owners
yes,
overlook?
I would say there are some common or perhaps, yes, as you say, overlooked mistakes which can be easily sorted to sort of try and avoid basically failing. That's how I would put it.
Well, I'm going to leave the floor to you, Arsim. So give us what you think are the top 5 issues.
Yes. Well, if I may say, I mean, if I go back to sort of right at the beginning, I do know that many people dream of running their own business, and some people fulfill their dream, but it can be a tough learning sort of curve for those venturing out the first time, I would say. Okay, running a business, I would say you need to be very careful and avoid some of the mistakes that could cost you a valuable resource or money. Okay, and if I may start, I would think, for example, one of the key things is to understand your customer base or your target market. Okay. What I find is that many people launch off without one amazing idea, basically, or a product, without seeing if there is a demand for that item or solution or a service. Now, this is, we all have great ideas, and it's all sort of fantastic, and you get that entrepreneurial spirit with people who want to venture out and stuff like that. But research is absolutely key. All right. So I would say the solution to, for example, before you launch, is to actually conduct a market research, all right? Basically, setting out, you need to understand who your customer are and basically how to supply, for example, to these customers. But even before you do that, you also need to look out for your competition, okay? You need to understand who's out there providing a similar service or a product, okay? Who are the current customers? And basically, you need to analyze both the competition and your product, write a list of each of your sort of features of your product or service, and basically next to each feature list all the benefits it provides. And this would actually give you a bit of a kind of an outlook as to, for example, how you should approach or where your customers are. Now, many people go about, for example, trying to sell to everyone and anyone. I would say there's nothing wrong with targeting a specific market, okay? Because basically, if you go by, I don't know, a certain group or gender or age or something like that, you do know, and there are channels to reach out to these groups if you play it carefully. Okay, so I would say do your homework first, and it will be easier when you start with your venture.
Yep, understood. I think the other quick thing there, also, in fact, funnily enough, our guest yesterday was a startup from Tel Aviv who've moved into London, and their focus on is all about laser focus. Getting a very, very narrow perspective on their target customer to begin with, making sure that they get it absolutely right, and then expanding out. So, again, being very focused on who your target customer is, I think, is crucial, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, next thing, I would like to sort of talk about marketing. Okay, this is an area where many people kind of overlook. And again, it goes back to sort of thinking with your heart rather than thinking with your mind. Many people think that they have found a solution and that's it, or a product or a market that fits into the market, and that's it. You don't need to do anything about it, and you just go with it. Okay. Now, I would say that's unfortunately it's not like that. Okay, good marketing needs to be done every day. Okay, it's vital to ensure that your brand or a message or it's constantly put out there so you get customers as well as maintain, perhaps if you have any current ones. Now, it's also quite important to sort of think this through properly, because marketing campaigns isn't something that actually comes to you whilst perhaps you're taking a shower or eating lunch. Okay, I can tell you that successful campaigns tend to be carefully researched, well thought out, and focused. Okay, on the detail of execution rather than on resting on a single good idea. Okay, planning a marketing campaign starts with understanding your position in the market, and ends up with details such as wording in the, on that ad or whatever you want to sort of throw out there. So keep in mind that your plan is not supposed to be, this is about the marketing plan. This is not supposed to be a present, okay? This is supposed to be a marketing plan of how you actually going to reach the customers. But it also needs to be, I would say, you need to have room for changes and improvements and adaptations as you go along, because markets change every day and you need to adapt to the market and to the market needs.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's an iterative process, isn't it? Absolutely. We're finding that at LawyerFair. Our marketing plan now is a little different to what it was perhaps 6 or 12 months ago. Fantastic. What's the next one?
Well, the next one, it's key, really. I mean, most companies start with 1 or 2 individuals, but, to grow or to sort of, get the company to thrive, you do need to bring people. And this is one of the areas where I've seen, for example, people either hiring too many staff or perhaps not enough. Okay. Now, we all know the staff are expensive, but they're also people who need to have their views and voices heard. Okay, the right team, I would say, behind anyone that you basically can leave the owners or the proprietors of the business to basically grow their business and not get caught up in sort of daily basic admin tasks that could be done by somebody else. Okay, I always say to business owners that one of the most important tasks of a workforce management is, for example, to make sure that you have the right people doing the right job at the right time.
Yeah, it's quite a challenge, though, isn't it? Would you say? I mean, I think it's probably the most challenging thing, particularly if you're starting a business, but even managing a business, finding the right people and managing them is a great challenge for many business owners.
Indeed.
And there's no easy solution to that one. But okay, fantastic. Well, where are we now? Up to number 4, Arsim.
Yeah, number 4, I would say, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because it's quite easy to misjudge your finances. Okay, running out of money is probably one of the worst things that can happen to any business, especially startups. Now, I mean, it's easily managed, but you need to be pedantic with your numbers. Now, if you're in the game, you should try and plan for shortfalls, okay? And I always tend to say to people that you need to have money reserves or credit, which is basically, there for you in case things, sometimes things go down, okay? So realistically, budgeting for staff is probably the backbone and the lifesaver of any business. So basically, make sure you budget it right and do not spend or sort of overspend in certain areas or divisions, I would say.
Yeah. I always say half the forecasts and double the timeline as well as in your cash flow is pretty crucial. Fantastic. And finally, number 5.
Well, final number 5, I think, I would like to say, for example, there's one really, really crucial area of sort of running a business. We're all good at something, okay, and we're not all good at everything. And I think you, as an individual, if you're starting out, you need to find out what you're good at, okay, and then stick to that. And then when it comes to doing other tasks, let's just say, for example, take one area of, like, I don't know, your accounts. Okay. Lots of people tend to try and think I could save some money by doing the accounts myself. All right, that's a very tedious job, and it should be left to the experts. Okay, it should be left to someone who understands how accounts work, who understands what forms you need to fill in and when you need to sort of submit and pay your taxes and so on and so forth. And I would say leave the stuff to the expert, but not just the finances. Okay, even for example, you may be good or you've come up with a great sort of idea or a product or something like that. But when it comes to actually selling it, not many people have got that sales flair in them, all right? So I would say it's better to find a good salesman or sales manager who can sell your product or a service and let you get on with what you do best, okay? Likewise, for marketing and everything else, I would say you can gradually grow. And in today's world, I think we live in a fantastic time where you have access to vast number of people out there who are happy to provide you with an hour or two of their time, but actually set you in the right direction. So go for it. Get the expert advice.
Well, listen, I've agreed with all of these things, and this wasn't prepared beforehand because they're all absolutely crucial. But I have to say, one of the things that business owners, startup and even established businesses do overlook is the fact that some business owners think they can, they can do it all themselves, or B, they have to do it all themselves because of finances or anything. But it's a completely false economy, because if you're not focusing on A, where you can add the value, but also B, you're not bringing in experts who can help, then it's a road to disaster, really. So I think that's a fantastic point to finish with. Arsim, one of the joys of doing this podcast series, and we're up to number 45, I think now, is having people like you willing to come on and give advice, frankly. Without any return, and that's really fantastic for you to do that, and I appreciate it very much. I know you're in between meetings. I mean, your background, you specialise particularly in working through tenders and bidding processes for people, but also you mentor and troubleshoot for businesses and startups. Is there a way that people can get in touch with you? And we can obviously put your name obviously on the podcast. Is there a link or a website of any kind?
Absolutely. I mean, people can look for me in LinkedIn. We have a website called thebidrevolution.com. I'm out there really. I mean, if you just Google my name, you'll find a lot of sort of links and hits next to my name. You can find me as part of the Enterprise Nation as well, and that's where I've been sort of fortunate enough to actually be nominated in top 50 advisors in the UK. So feel free to get in touch. Andrew, I would like to just sort of, if you don't mind, end it with one very important thing, because this is very close to my heart, and I think I've come across this so many times, with small and even big corporations and stuff like that, is basically not being able to make these hard-nosed decisions. Okay, but now we all get sort of, some people get caught in this, and it shouldn't be like that. I think kindness and understanding are great traits to have, all right? But as business, you're basically constantly up against competition, so you need to adapt and have this hard-nosed attitude when it comes to conducting business decisions, okay? So when it comes to making a new venture or starting a new venture, people need to be bold and don't think about how it is going to affect anyone else but themselves, all right? Now, I know this sounds a bit silly, okay? But you're in business to make money, and you need to think about you and your business and how is that decision going to impact you and your business only, not anybody else's business.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. There's a great book written by, I can't remember his name now. It's one of the Silicon Valley heroes, which is called The Hard Thing About Hard Things, and it's really about that. It's about particularly early stage businesses, but generally you have to make a lot of tough decisions, and it's not about being a bastard or difficult. It's about making the right choices and the right decisions. And there's very few people who regret you regret not having made those decisions more than you regret having made them, if that makes sense. So I completely concur. And you've made the very difficult decision as well today to extend the top 5 into a top 6, which and that was without authority from me. So
Well, I apologise for that. I just had to share.
Everyone's been very valuable. Arsim, thanks again. Have a great day.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Cheers.
Not at all. That was another LawyerFair Daily podcast.
Thanks for listening to the LawyerFair.co.uk daily podcast. If you'd like to listen to more, why not subscribe and download each episode via iTunes, or visit us on the LawyerFair.co.uk website.